Generation. I'm Jeannie Green, and this week I get to host This Generation, a weekly series for and about our youth. And not only our Native youth, as this program demonstrates. It's all about the Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program. We've heard about the rural-urban divide, the differences between those who live in the city and those who live in Bush, Alaska. The Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program brings together the city and the country. It's a great show. I'll be back right after this.
My brother, he started smoking pot when he was like my age. He didn't drop out of school like some other guys, and he didn't go to jail or get hooked on other drugs. He didn't end up on the streets or anything like that.
What do you want?
He never really did anything at all.
The youth of today are very fortunate. I went to high school in Seward. Now, Seward is not considered to be an urban setting, but it's actually one of our larger communities in Alaska. What an opportunity the Rose Urban-Rural Exchange affords today's youth. An opportunity for the city kids to visit their high school friends in rural Alaska. Friends that may open their eyes and may actually affect someone for the rest of their lives.
The following program is brought to you by the Alaska Humanities Forum, made possible through a grant from the U.S. Department of Education.
When I first found out, I started to worry, how am I going to feed her and how I going to take care of her.
I was afraid he would be bored. You know, is he going to be bored? There's not enough entertainment here.
I really have more of a respect and more of an understanding for the Yupik culture and life in a village.
You know, just come with an open mind and come and prepare yourself to see some really awesome things.
When you hear the words rural Alaska, you think of the vast wilderness, winding rivers and streams, an unending field of ice, or wildlife roaming free on the tundra, and mountain ranges that stretch as far as the eye can see. But for the native people who live here, rural Alaska means much, much more.
What is the name of the leader of the tribal council? What are the responsibilities of the council of in the village? And you also might ask how it compares to the mayor in the village, because they actually have both. So this creates a really interesting situation in your villages.
These 16 students from Anchorage, Fairbanks, and the Mat-Su Valley are about to learn the meaning of rural life. They're learning as much as they can about the cultures and lifestyles of the different native groups of Alaska. It's all part of the Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program, a program made possible by the U.S. Department of Education and the Alaska Humanities Forum. The purpose of the program is to build understanding and a statewide sense of community by bringing urban students to rural Alaska, where they learn about Alaska Native culture and rural life. and by bringing rural students to urban centers. Well, they will experience city life. It is an experience that will hopefully influence these young ambassadors' outlook on life and their view of the world, providing an opportunity for both rural and urban students to learn and understand the differences and similarities between urban and rural life. Preparation for rural ambassadors begins with a series of orientation sessions, which help rural students become aware of cultural awareness issues, life skills for the fast pace of urban living, exposure to urban-rural issues related to education, health, governance, and subsistence, and any other concerns that may need to be addressed. Urban ambassadors also receive orientation sessions that help prepare them for their 2-week experience in a rural Alaska community. These sessions cover many of the issues that rural Alaskans face today, as well as cultural awareness issues, life skills for rural living, and information regarding tribal government, health care, education, and subsistence.
Well, the Rose Urban Rural Exchange and Babiche Cultural Exchange, we did 3 weekends, full-day Saturdays, 3 Saturdays that we went and they talked to us and did orientation, had us brainstorm ideas. Mainly that was for developing our project that we're going to be doing when we come home, but they also were having us think about what it might be like that would be different from where we are at home. And so for preparing, I did that. I also, both my parents lived in Unalakleet for 4 years, and so I talked to them about it. And I packed, so I guess that's a form of preparing.
It's this preparation that will help both rural and urban students get along in a new and unfamiliar environment. But even the most in-depth orientation can't compare to the moment these kids get off the plane and set foot in their new home for the next 2 weeks. It's that moment when many misconceptions are set straight and realization settles in.
I was expecting to some level a more traditional type family, I guess, maybe living in a small log house somewhere or a sod hut out on the tundra, but they've got a pretty nice house here, and the first night I brought some pizza and we had that, but then they've had a lot of pizza over this time, so I haven't really had a whole bunch of traditional food, though. We just started having some Eskimo ice cream, they call it, and it's called a guduk, and some dried fish.
This is, as actual subsistence, most of them live, and, going out and catching the fish, and that's actually dinner, It's not like, oh, well, we're not going to have burgers tonight, we're going to have fish. It's like, oh, tonight we're going to have fish. So it's really amazing that, people can do this. It's like, wow, I have a new respect for that.
Bryce Ward and Erik Johnson of Fairbanks, Alaska, both spent their time as exchange students in the Yupik village of Akiachak, located on the Kuskokwim River. While Bryce was placed with a traditional Yupik family, Erik found home away from home at the George residence, a non-traditional Yupik family. For Diane George and her husband, there was a little hesitance at first about housing an exchange student for 2 weeks. Diane George explains.
I travel a lot, and so I was concerned about, how my schedule would turn out. Like, I was gone this past weekend because I was in Aniak for regional basketball tournament, which something I had planned before this had come up, and so I was somewhat concerned about that. But my husband is here, and so that worked out all right. And I was a little bit concerned about what we would do with him because, as I was telling you earlier, we're definitely one of the most non-traditional families in the community, and so I was trying to think about, okay, what are we going to do to allow him to participate in the culture, while not totally flip-flopping our lives. And I've kind of worked my way through that over the last week and realized that I'm not the entertainment director.
Two young ladies with the Rose Urban Rural Exchange Program, Rachel Mulvihill and Laura Nations, spent their time in the village of Wainwright, located on the shores of the Chukchi Sea, just southwest of Barrow, Alaska. Host parent Helen Peetook recalls her concerns about having Laura live with her.
When I first found out, I started to worry, how am I going to feed her and how I gonna take care of her. But they gave us money, like $300 for 2 weeks in order to, so we just use that for her, the groceries to buy whatever she can eat, and lasted that long. After that, I found out there was nothing I can worry about.
Within the rural villages that are hosting these urban exchange students, there seems to be a common occurrence. The youth of these villages are, in essence, taking over as the rural hosts, showing the visiting exchange students around the village and providing the entertainment as well.
My granddaughter was living here too. They're just like they were sisters, and they get along really good. Most of my granddaughters, they always take her anywhere, like high school for basketball or anywhere they walk. Most of my grandchildren think they are getting older and show them how we live. She experienced that, and she make lots of good friends around here. Lots of girlfriends, and when she was leaving, some girls come around and really was hate to see her go.
Further south, urban exchange students Ian Jacobs and Dylan Roberts found themselves in the village of Russian Mission, a Yupik community located on the banks of the mighty Yukon River.
Maybe one.
Do I need to pay attention?
Jim Duffy is the airline representative for the village of Russian Mission. Working for the airlines often means long and busy days for Jim, hauling people and freight to and from the airport all day long. So when he was asked to become a host parent, needless to say, he was concerned about being able to meet the exchange students' needs.
One of the things I was concerned about is that he would be able to get out in the country, so I talked to some friends that go out checking traps and monarching, and they were willing to take him along. They were happy to take him along with them.
You could bench press this, girls.
Being a host for the urban exchange student, my job hasn't been affected at all. My kids have pretty much taken over the student that came in, and it's cooking for an extra mouth, but it hasn't been any burden at all. It's just like another member of the family.
From all the testimonies from the different rural families that are hosting these urban exchange students, the Rose Urban Rural Exchange Program is not only having a positive effect on the rural and urban exchange students who are participating, but also on the host parents, families, and communities these young people are visiting.
Being a host, how to be a host, I found that I experienced that I challenged other people that wanted to experience being as a host parent. It's fun, lots of fun. We have fun with her. We treat her like our own daughter, and she have fun with my grandchildren.
I just encourage families from villages out here to participate in the program. Show them what village life is like.
So I think it's good for kids to be able to experience different lifestyles. Even though the differences aren't that great, there are some differences. And I think, again, just seeing that there's more similarities than differences.
And by the time she's gone, we missed her. And we called her a couple of times. When are you coming back? We miss you up here.
Just from what I've seen so far, since this is the first time that it has happened in Russian Mission, and a lot of the other kids from the village have been coming over to my house to visit with the exchange student, Ian. I think that the next time an opportunity arises for a family in Russian Mission to host an exchange student, that these other high school kids and junior high kids are going to volunteer their parents to bring the student to their house.
She was really excited being, I guess she wanted to stay more, but her time was ready for her to go back home because she's got her own parents, but we're her second parents.
Heartbeat wishes to thank Hagelin Aviation Services Incorporated for making our stories possible. We travel on Hagelin Aviation and we thank you for choosing them too. Hagelin Aviation has been serving Alaskans in the bush for over 20 years.
We fly Hagelins all the time.
Operating with 29 aircraft at 8 stations across Alaska and servicing over 100 destinations daily. Hagelin Aviation, your ticket to ride in rural Alaska.
Next time you need a car, check out USave. You don't need a credit card. USave accepts cash and debit cards. If you need a ride, USave will pick you up. Are you flying out of Anchorage? You don't have to hassle with expensive parking at the airport. You can leave your car in USave's secure lot, and they will drop you off right at the terminal. Do you need a car wash? Come see USave. Sean and Pete will have your car looking shiny and new in no time. USave, where it's all about you.
The Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program not only affects the lives of the youth that participate in the program, but it affects the whole community, beginning with the host family, the parents who host the youth. Let's take a look at just how one can become a host family. Imagine growing up in the city, never seeing or experiencing rural Alaska and life in a village. It's probably kind of hard to imagine. For several urban youth, it is the opportunity of a lifetime to leave their busy city lives and spend 2 weeks in a remote rural village. The Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program provides opportunities for urban youth to experience rural living and rural youth to experience urban life. But more than that, the Rose Urban-Rural Exchange Program is an opportunity to create friendships between city kids and their families and you and your family. And most importantly, it is an opportunity to teach young people about Alaska Native culture and life in the village. For many host families, the thought of having a stranger in their home and in their lives may seem a little threatening or uncomfortable. But when you put yourself in the shoes of the exchange student, who is hundreds of miles away from his or her family and surroundings, the experience seems a lot less threatening. For those people who would like to host an urban exchange student, the Alaska Humanities Forum has created a brochure that clearly outlines the program and provides easy-to-follow guidelines for rural host parents and families. For host parents such as yourself, some of the following suggestions will help prepare you and your family for the arrival of your exchange student. As a host family, you should extend a welcome to the student before he or she arrives in your village. The phone number and address of your student will be provided to you before he or she arrives. As a host parent and family, there are some obligations that you will need to meet that will assure a positive experience for you, your family, and the student. For example, it is not required that you provide the student with a private bedroom in your home. However, a single bed or a mat on the floor is required. Students can share a room with another family member of the same gender, boy with a boy, girl with a girl. Heanie Staheli of Kiana, Alaska, was very hesitant of becoming a host parent for exchange student Nick Hutchings of Anchorage, Alaska, for reasons we can all relate to.
There was a lot of anticipation. We were worried. I was worried about whether he was going to like it or not, or whether we can keep him occupied, or yeah. So there was some worry there. We were very worried about having enough time for Nick when he was here because we are so busy during the day. We have a business, and so it was hard. I was really worried about having another kid come in because it is so hard. Teenagers, you know, at that age, you don't really know what to expect. They're so different. And so I was very worried about how he would fit in and if we were able to meet his expectations.
But as many host families soon discover, these visiting urban students expect nothing more than to be treated like everyone else. That's why it is so important to include your student in the activities of everyday life.
We expect our children to be in at curfew, and the other thing is to help out. That, you know, when everybody's done with dinner, you get up and you help put everything away. You help doing the dishes, help clean up. Just if you see something that needs to be done, don't wait for somebody to ask you. You know, just jump in like you are one of the kids, and do it. He was really good about it. We own a business here, and he jumped right in, and he was helping out with the business, and it was nice to be able to work with a teenager that could take a set of instructions and work with it. You know, you didn't have to say, oh, this is how you do it. He was very capable of following instructions and, you know, a really quick learner.
For many of these visiting students, the daily activities of rural life are experiences that may last these urban youth a lifetime. It is important to include your student in as many activities as possible. Whether it be gathering berries or running errands for elders, these students should come away with experiences that reflect village life. Keeping these youth busy and occupying their time with cultural activities is also an effective way to keep these youth from becoming homesick.
Keeping him busy, keeping his mind occupied is the way that I found works the best. If a child has idle time, they will get homesick and start thinking about the things. But if you take them out in the country and start showing them different things, they get their mind off being homesick.
But in the event of serious homesickness, difficulty in adapting, serious illness, or injury, the student will come prepared with a folder that contains emergency contact names and phone numbers. It is unlikely that an emergency situation will arise, but if it does, being prepared is the key. Hosting an urban student will be a wonderful opportunity to teach them about Native culture. The following is a list of possible subjects students can explore during their visit to your community. If there are members in your community who are experts in any of these areas, you might arrange for your student to spend time with them so the students can have the opportunity to learn about Native culture and community. By sharing your world with these students, you will be opening minds as well as doors, exposing these urban students to a way of life that has survived for centuries and possibly forming relationships that will last a lifetime. It takes courage for these youth to make the journey to our rural communities to experience our way of life. But more importantly, it takes the courage and strength of our indigenous people to share their world with others.
Kiana for flying Bering Air.
Bering Air flies throughout Northwest Alaska and has hubs in Nome and Kotzebue. Bering Air flies both helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft, such as our Cessna Caravans, Piper Navajos, Beach King Airs, and our large cargo aircraft, the Casa. Bering Air offers daily scheduled flights and charters throughout Alaska and the Soviet Far East. Bering Air also provides emergency medical flights for Northwest Alaska. For safe and reliable service, fly with Bering Air.
I hope this program sparked your interest in becoming a host family. If so, please call this number, 1-800-868-6865. For all of us here on This Generation, I'm Jeannie Green, and look forward to some more brand new programs in the upcoming weeks of youth around our state of Alaska. God bless you all, and stay tuned now for Heartbeat Alaska.